problems. We just lost you temporarily there, Richard.
Yeah, get back to where we once belonged. That's what we're doing with the HH-2 system, where we all grew our own food, we all had good health, we didn't need hardly any doctors, and everyone was happy.
So the Red Kite Radio jukebox came up with exactly the right record.
Yeah,
break.
exactly.
Well done, jukebox. That was, of course, Beatles and Get Back from 1969. Well, we've been talking about Good Gardeners International, and we've talked about this system, horticultural system called HH-2, not HS2, nothing to do with railways, HH-2, and there's a product that comes off that called HH-4. Now, the question I'm going to ask you next is really about how GGI reaches out to the community, and I'm thinking farmers and growers, supermarkets, schools, this wonderful word stakeholders, which we often hear used. So how does GGI relate to these sort of organisations?
Well, because farming has gone so far down the road of industrial monoculture and chemicals, we're starting at the platform of good gardening, and we believe from good gardening comes good farming. But first you have to learn the principles of good gardening, just like in mathematics. You have to learn the basics before you get to the advanced. So good gardeners are teaching how to make the right fungi and bacteria to introduce into any soil type to improve any crop type up to 300% increase.
Really?
Without
So
digging or ploughing.
There's a very strong educational role
Oh,
within
yes.
GGI. Yeah, I understand that. Farmers and growers have a huge role to play in this, I guess.
Well, yes, the good gardeners were actually the originators of the no-dig science in the UK. And so farmers are taking it up, but they don't have the fertiliser element, they don't have the HH4. And so we see crop failures all over Hertfordshire. I drove to the Oxford Farming Conference a week ago, and I saw crop failures on the road up to
Really?
Oxford.
Really? Because we tend to blame that on the weather, but
Oh, no.
is that a popular misconception?
Well, it is, because the corn, for instance, is the crop that I'm talking about mostly. They were growing fine in the autumn on allotments. The best food we get is from your allotment, from your home garden.
Oh, yes.
And they all survived. So it's about soil treatment in agriculture that's making these crops fail.
Sure. Now, the supermarkets, who, of course, some of them are the world's biggest farmers, one or two of them are, certainly, they have a role to play. Supermarkets have kind of, would it be fair to say, Richard, have kind of conditioned us to expect the best of everything all year round.
Well, that's true. But of course, going back to where we once belonged, we only ate seasonal food.
We did.
And we relished strawberries in the summer. And if we got avocados and mangoes, it was very, very unusual, very, exceptional. But then, the spice trade's been going on for thousands of years from the Far East. So we've always had that kind of thing coming into England, but not in the quantities we see today.
Okay, so the supermarkets still have a role to play here, don't they?
Oh yes, they do. I mean, it's a shame that corner shops have gone. I remember my mother would go to the corner shop every week, and we'd get all our stuff even twice a week, and it would all be local stuff, locally grown, and say, who grew that, who grew that?
That's
But
right.
you don't see that these days.
No, indeed not. Now, I'm seeing here that there's a very interesting project coming up on the rails, and it's to establish a 30-acre farm in Bedfordshire, Richard. That sounds quite a project, that.
Yes, it does. We've had a farm just recently lost to building development in the village of Shenley, and that was 2 acres, and it was a very good demo farm. We had course students from all over the world come to see what we do and do courses. Now we're looking for a bigger project which will have international students visiting.
So it will be a centre of excellence?
Oh,
Yeah.
indeed, yes, absolutely. Because this science is not known about, and it needs to be broadcast for the benefit of the world.
Sure, and having a farm where it's actually practiced and carried out is probably the best way of achieving that.
Oh, it is. Demonstration is always the best way to show people.
Excellent. So, I guess quite a lot of our listeners will have allotments if they're lucky enough, if they're high up enough. They've huge demand for allotments. Waiting lists as long as your arm. Once you've got your allotment, of course, you are in a position to kind of dictate the way you operate as an individual gardener, and what stuff you use, what you want to grow, and so on and so forth. So there's a very good message for allotment holders from what we're talking about today. If you are an allotment holder, where would you direct the allotment holder to go to find out more about the work of GGI and the science involved in it? I believe there is a website, Richard, is that right?
Yes, it's ggi.org.uk, and we advocate for allotments that the allotmenters group together, get an HH-2 system, and then they can share out the end product amongst,
Sure.
and it becomes very cheap. And they can all bring their waste locally from the kitchen, because it digests kitchen waste, cooked food, uncooked food, because the system's rat-proof and fly-proof, and generates an incredible temperature of up to 70 degrees, 74 degrees, and it destroys all pathogens. It's completely safe, and we sell it in shops. It's sold, you can sell it anywhere you like.
So this isn't just good science, it's also practical and has financial benefits as well, by the sound of it.
Well, the colleges we teach in, they like it very much, because it teaches the students a business in the college how to recycle waste into the end product, HH4, in 90 days. They can sell it to the parents, the open days, themselves, and they learn a business.
Sure.
Plus they get the food from their growing area they can take into the kitchens and have it prepared as food.
And
for
the end
school.
product is superior, I guess, quality-wise.
Well, we are claiming that we do have much higher nutrient content in the vegetables,
Sure.
because we're putting the minerals back in the soil,
Yeah.
and that's what gives the minerals into the plants.
Sure. Well, that sounds absolutely fascinating. So let's just remind everybody again the website address that they can go to read up on this very fascinating subject, Richard, and that is
ggi.org.uk.
Okay. Excellent. Well, Richard, thank you very much for coming to talk to us today here at Red Kite Radio. A fascinating subject, one which I must admit I know absolutely nothing about, but I've learned something today. That's really fascinating. So thank you for sparing the time, because you're a very busy man, for popping into us to talk to us here at 107.2 Red Kite Radio.
Thank you very much for
Our
having me.
studio guest today was Richard Higgins from Good Gardeners International. The music continues here on 107.2 Red Kite Radio with Manchester's finest Take That and Up All Night.